Welcome to the Wealth Wisdom, where knowledge becomes power and power builds your future.
What if I told you that every time a financial crisis begins, a hidden countdown starts, one that doesn't signal destruction, but opportunity? What if the chaos that ruins families, wipes out savings, and shatters livelihoods quietly becomes the most profitable moment for the banking system? It sounds impossible. It sounds unfair. But look back at any major economic meltdown, 1929, 2008, or even the inflation storms of the 2020s, and you'll notice the same pattern. When citizens fall, banks rise. When you lose, they gain. And somehow, no matter how big the disaster is, the banking system always emerges richer, stronger, and more powerful than before. It's almost as if they don't dread crisis at all. It's as if they depend on it. To understand why, you have to go back to the very start, back to the moment banking stopped being a service and became something far more influential. In the early 1900s, banks were nothing more than vaults. You gave them money. They kept it safe. That was it. But everything changed with the birth of the Federal Reserve in 1913. It didn't just create a central bank, it created a central authority, capable of controlling interest rates, printing money, and, most importantly, stepping in whenever banks were in trouble. Here is the part most people don't know. The Federal Reserve wasn't designed by government officials alone. It was heavily shaped by some of the wealthiest banking families in America, drafted during a secret meeting on a private island. The people being regulated were the ones designing the rules. And that's where the story really begins. Because from that moment forward, the banking system gained something no other industry had: a guarantee, a safety net, a structure that ensures that no matter how big the crisis becomes, they will survive it. And not just survive, thrive. Jump ahead to 1929. The Great Depression. Factories shutting down, bread lines stretching for blocks, families losing homes, land, and hope. But in the middle of all that suffering, the largest banks weren't falling, they were consolidating power. Smaller banks collapsed, and big banks bought them for pennies. Loans defaulted, and banks seized land, farms, entire neighborhoods. The misery of millions became a bargain sale for the financial elite. It was the first time the world witnessed the pattern. When crisis hits, citizens drown, but banks somehow find a life raft. And then came 2008, the masterpiece of financial catastrophe. Risky loans, toxic mortgage bundles, banks selling debts they knew were dangerous, then quietly betting against their own customers. And when the whole system blew up, millions of people lost jobs. Millions lost their homes. Retirement accounts evaporated overnight. But the banks, they got bailed out. Hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollars were pumped into the same institutions. That caused the collapse. Executives received bonuses. Profits soared again. And almost nobody at the top faced consequences. The message was clear. In this system, banks don't lose. Even when they fail, they win. This is where the model evolved into something darker, something predictable. Banks learned that crisis isn't something to fear. It's something to use. Something that resets the board in their favor. The cycle became almost formulaic. First, keep interest rates low so people borrow more. Then loosen the rules so risky loans slip through. Let the bubble expand until it bursts. When it does, ordinary people panic, markets crash, and that's when the real opportunity appears. Governments step in. Central banks cut rates. Money floods the system again. And who gets rescued first? Not the citizens, not the small businesses. The banks. Once they're safe, they start buying everything that just got cheap properties, smaller banks, entire portfolios of assets. Then the cycle restarts. Every crisis becomes a stepping stone. And if you think lawmakers stepped in and fixed the system, think again. Every new rule came with loopholes. Every reform was softened, weakened, all written with the help of financial lobbyists. It wasn't incompetence, it was design. Today, the patterns are clearer than ever. When inflation surged recently, families struggled to buy groceries. Yet big banks reported some of the highest profits in over a decade. Why? Because inflation lets them earn more from interest and credit. When interest rates soared, first-time home buyers were priced out, small businesses struggled, and loan defaults increased. But the banks got exactly what they needed: higher interest income, more foreclosures, more assets becoming available at bargain prices. And then there's national debt. Every time a government borrows money, which is happening at record levels right now, it is the banking system that earns interest from that debt. The more governments struggle, the more banks profit. Even bank failures follow the pattern. In 2023 and 2024, when several mid-sized banks collapsed, the biggest institutions swooped in and absorbed them. Competition shrank. Power concentrated. The same cycle, again and again. At some point, you have to face the uncomfortable truth. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as intended. It's just not intended to protect you. Your debts generate their profits. Your struggles feed their advantages. Your losses become their acquisitions. Crisis isn't their weakness. It's their business model. So what can you take away from all of this? First, crises reveal the true priorities of the system. If bankers get rescued before the public, then the system is designed around them, not around citizens. Second, the more crises we experience, the more powerful the big banks become. Every collapse wipes out competitors and hands more control to the handful of financial giants at the top. And third, in a world built on debt, leverage, and complexity, financial literacy isn't a luxury anymore. It's a survival skill. The less the average person understands, the easier it is for the system to extract value from them. And here is the part that should keep you awake at night. The next crisis isn't a matter of if, it's a matter of when. The patterns are already forming. The pressure is already rising. And the playbook hasn't changed. If this opened your eyes, even a little, then share it. Let more people understand the game being played around them. And if you want more deep dives into the hidden mechanics of money and power, tap subscribe and stay connected, because this story is just getting started.